would we be concerned about the Muslim incarceration rate in France? Well, because it's part of a larger problem with the recruitment and radicalization with Islamic extremism. So we've been seeing this pattern for about 20 years. We've been seeing a correlation between people being incarcerated, they get radicalized there, they leave, and then they launch attacks. They don't just become radicalized in prison. Often they do start building a cell within prison that then once they leave, the cell grows, and then they start plotting, and then they execute the attacks. This last recent person we've seen, the attack on Champs-Élysées, he was incarcerated, so it's going to be very interesting to see if he built linkages there to ISIS during his time in detention. So the timing of this attack on the Champs-Élysées is interesting. It's a few days before, kind of like a final lead up to the election where they're identifying candidates will go on to the final two candidates. It's now come down, one of the candidates is Le Pen, who has very particular views about immigration, immigrants, and how to handle these sorts of problems with extremism and terrorism. People would say they're on the aggressive end of things as opposed to the other candidate. There is concern for sure. I am concerned that ISIS claimed this attack rather quickly. Usually it can take them quite a while to retroactively claim an attack that happens. Say, kind of put their stamp on it, like this was an ISIS or originated attack, part of our brand, our ISIS brand. In this case, it was rather rapid, which does lead some of us to be concerned that there is a larger plan afoot, that this is part of a wider agenda to sort of sway and influence the outcome of the election. Now, why on earth would a terrorist organization want to sort of sway the voters in the direction of a candidate who is so aggressively anti-terrorist and has aggressive measures planned? It doesn't make sense, right? It seems counterintuitive, but when you take a step back and you think about it, those measures could foment and really foster be propaganda for ISIS going forward. You close the borders, that could be seen as further grievances. It causes further resentment on the part of the immigrant population in France, further sense of exclusion, further sense of discrimination. France has had some success with an experiment where they entirely separated, they identified the radicals, the people that they felt were extremists. They identified them, pulled them out of the general population and put them in entirely separate wings. They created entirely built separate wings and put them there. What they did find was that when they removed them from the general population, those that they had radicalized, these sort of preacher groups, when they're preaching, they form these groups, right? So the people who are following these self-appointed preachers, they started behaving in a regular fashion. So they started shaving again, they stopped wearing the robes, they started speaking to female guards, they started eating regular food, they didn't insist on halal food. So it was very interesting. In that sense, they think it's been successful. They're now continuing to monitor, right? So do we know that once they leave the population, that they have again returned to a non-radicalized state? We don't know that for sure, but so far this experiment seems to be pretty successful, certainly more successful than what's been tried before. On the other side of the Atlantic, when we look at the U.S., we are absolutely not doing enough. We have the advantage here in the United States that we see things happening in England and France first before they come to roost here in the United States. Trends, activities, trajectories. We've known for quite some time that we have a problem in the U.S. prisons. We've had Jose Padilla, as early as Jose Padilla. He plotted to have a dirty bomb go off on U.S. soil. He converted to Islam in U.S. prisons. He got radicalized there and came out with those plots. I mean, a dirty bomb on U.S. soil. Alton Nolan beheaded a woman, radicalized, converted in prison to Islam, comes out and beheads a woman. This is something that we see, a horrific thing that we see. It's a hallmark of ISIS and these sort of Islamic radicals. We see that in the battlefield. We see that in war zones. We've been seeing it in Europe, and now it's coming to roost in the United States. still have a window of opportunity to try to do more to intervene in our prisons. Identify our radicals, number one. We need to identify them, we need to segregate them, and we need to monitor them. That's the best hope we really have. There's no ideal solution, but we need to do more, and our policymakers are certainly not doing enough.